Lesson 3.2, Mental Math. Let's start over in the wait, you know what? Let's change it up a little bit. Let's start in the patterns. So if your factor ends in a 0, and remember, the factors are just the numbers that we're using in a multiplication problem. If your factors end in a 0, all you have to do is multiply the leading digit and then add the same number of zeros. So let me show you what that looks like. I have two examples down here. First one is 70 times 40. You just take the leading digit, which would be that first digit, so 7 times 4 equals 28. And then if you notice, I have 1 0, 2 zeros. So I take my 28 and I add 2 zeros, and guess what? 70 times 40 equals 2,800. What about if it's really big like this? 25 times 250 times 400. I take the leading digits, 25 times 4 gives me 100. And then I add 1, 2, 3 more zeros. This is where it can get tricky. 100 has 2 zeros, but I don't count those because those came from just my leading digits. So I have my 100, and then I have to add 3 more zeros. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now let's take a look at the vocab. First we have factors. If you remember, that's the same as last time. It's numbers that are multiplied together. So in a multiplication problem, 3 times 2, the 3 and the 2 are called factors. Product is the answer we get to a multiplication problem. And the next word is a multiple. And multiples, I put an example first because I think it's a little bit easier to understand it if you can see an example or a picture of it. Multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and they go on forever. So now let's look at the definition. It's the product of a number and another whole number. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's move over to the multiple section, and maybe this will help explain it. We said it's the product of a number and another whole number. So 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15, 5 times 4 is 20, 5 times 5 is 25, 5 times 6 is 30. That's how I got the multiples. So the multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, because it's what I get if I multiply that number by another number. Another easy way to think of it is you just count by the number. So if I'm having 2's, the multiples of 2, I could say 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 5 is 10, and I could do that. Or I could count by the number. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and it goes on forever. Here's something not to forget. Don't forget to include the number itself. So remember, the identity property of multiplication says that anything times 1 is itself. So 5 times 1 is 5. So that tells us that 5 is a multiple of 5. Here are 2 more examples. The multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and so on. And you know what? I'm counting by 6's. But what else am I doing? I'm taking 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 5 is 30. And then we'll go on. Same thing with 10's. 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. Times 3 is 30. Times 4 is 40. Times 5 is 50. And it will go on forever. Let's look at some of the practice. Let's look at this pattern and see if we can figure out the answer to all 3 of them. We know that 2 times 9 is 18. But what would 20 times 9 or 200 times 9 be? Pause the video and see if you can figure it out. You're absolutely right. 2 times 9 is 18, so 20 times 9 is 180, because we have 1 0 here. 2 times 9, the leading digits, give me 18, and then I add my 0 at the end. And 200 times 9 is 1,800. 2 times 9 gives me 18, I add 2 zeros, and I get that answer. Let's look at the next one. 200 times 800. See if you can get this. Pause the video. You're right. 2 times 8 gives me 16. So I get 16. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So I add 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. And I make sure I put the comma in the right spot. And I get 160,000. Last question. Uh-oh, there are 3 here. How could I do this? Pause the video and try it yourself. See if you can get it. You're really close. Let's look at how we did this. I take the leading digit of each one. So 5 times 6 is 30, times 2 is 60, so I write down 60. And then I have 1, 2, 3 zeros, so I have my 60, and then I write 1, 2, 3 more zeros. And these are different tools we can use to help understand mental math within multiplication. If you have any questions, please make sure you ask or join one of my small groups, and I'll see you tomorrow.